Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly and slightly irreverent show about cars, the car industry, and driving in general. I'm Doug Stewart, Senior Digital Content Producer at Fox 61 in Hartford. Joining me in this endeavor, Glenn Packman, who is a resident of beautiful Fairfield County. He is a car enthusiast and a noted improv comedian. And from Chicago, Jeff Buchholz, who's a writer and editor at WBBM in Chicago, and also a car enthusiast. So, gentlemen, one of the things that I think I've said on this podcast, and I've said in various places, that if I were to go to Europe or Japan or wherever, that I would get to the airport and never leave the parking lot because there'd be all these cars that I'd want to drive
Yes.
or look at or poke around and stuff. So it led me to think about that there are so many cars that we would love to have in this country, but for any one of a number of reasons, we can't. So I'm going to have Jeff go first here and tell us some of the ones that, why don't we go round robin and we'll each do one and then we'll kind of go through that way. So Jeff, give me an idea of what you're looking at.
I have name checked my first choice here on this podcast before. It's the Alpine A110. It is an homage to the Alpine 110 that was a rally course terror in the 60s, built by a company founded by a guy who used to be a driver for Renault in France. And in fact, Renault ended up taking over Alpine in the 70s, I think, and built ever more interesting and elaborate and 80s-tastic cars under the Alpine brand. And a few years ago, they brought out a new sort of heritage design version of the 110, and it's beautiful. It is gorgeous and yet modern. It is a pretty decent sized form factor. It's not enormous, and the original Alpine wasn't that big either. I remember, God, I was watching a show with, of all people, Paul Hollywood, and he borrowed an Alpine, an older Alpine to drive around, and that was the first time I realized how small they were. I suppose in the way of most European cars. But the new 110 is fantastic. I understand that Alpine is planning a launch in the US at some point in the next few years, and I sure hope they bring a 110 with them when they do.
Cool. Glenn, what do you got?
Well, if anybody follows this podcast closely, you know that I am a fan of more compact cars. I'm very un-American in that respect, in that big cars, fine, great, they're good for utility, but my heart always goes to small, more coupe-like designs. I'm going to attribute that back to the fact that my very first brand new car was a 1986 Volkswagen Golf. So that somehow, that has stuck with me. And to that end, the first one that I wish we could get is the Volkswagen Scirocco R, which is just,
that's a great car.
It is a great car. And God, I want one so bad. And we can't get it here. I've been a fan of the Scirocco going all the way back to the first one, where it was a very sporty rabbit, aka Golf in Germany. But I've always been a fan of this car, its dimensions, its sporting aspirations, and the latest version that they're selling in Germany is no disappointment. That's the number one on my list that I wish I could get.
Okay. I also am going to go with a Volkswagen, and my preferred body style is a station wagon. So Volkswagen makes an R-Line Golf station wagon, and they sell it in Germany. And I can't read German, but
I might
whatever.
Be able
to. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a wagon to be sure, but it's a sporty wagon, and that just appeals to me. They actually don't have they have a price of, the next one down in price is this called the Style, and it's 35,450 euros. But this has got the R line front end and the wheels and stuff, and I think that would be pretty boss to have. So
Is it an R32 wagon, or is it just look like an R32?
it looks like an R. It looks like, again, this is my failure to read German. Is it says R-line styling, so it may just be the styling of it.
Sure.
It says nothing about the specific underpinnings, but
Right.
But I suppose an R32 wagon would get a little bit close to an Audi
yes,
RS4
Right.
or whatever.
I would imagine.
I'm going to guess that the R signification, the GTI is available here in the US, and there's the R version of that, which is sportier, stiffer suspension, all the other more horsepower, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm assuming that R carries through, because the Scirocco that I mentioned is also an R line.
An
car,
R line,
so.
yeah.
So they made the Style sounds like they're their base level, and then the R has probably got all the sporting aspirations. Either way, totally agree. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Jeff, why don't you bring us your next one?
I feel like I'm watching ESPN coverage of the NBA draft. I want the pick is in sound effect after each one of these. My second one is a car that I saw for the first time in person while traveling. And in fact, it was on my first trip to Dubai that I saw the Renault or Dacia Duster. This is a small SUV that is primarily built in Romania and Turkey. Dacia is a wholly owned subsidiary of Renault. They're just now selling them in South America and a little bit in Central America. It's a four-door compact SUV. There is also a truck variant that is being sold in Central and South America and has been sighted occasionally crossing the border into the US, according to some of the Instagram accounts I follow. But it's adorable, and it's 90% of the SUV anybody really needs. It seems to be very well built. They're incredibly popular, and is far more interesting than your Nissan Rogue, Ford Escape, Chevy Equinox / Trailblazer kind of situation. Unfortunately, the Régie is not planning to come to the US with the mainline brand, and it's a shame because they're leaving a lot of sales on the table by not bringing the Duster in here. I'm not sure they can call it the Duster because I think Stellantis still owns that name, but I'm sure there's something a lawyer can figure out there.
Yes, yes, they're good at that sort of thing. Yeah. I'm thinking, going back to our Infinity episode, could you fit that in the Infinity lineup, or would it have to be more Nissan?
It's a little too cheap and cheerful to be an Infinity, I think. It is designed to be sold at lower prices in a lot of emerging markets. What Nissan did for a minute was in places like India and some of the Eastern European countries, they reintroduced Datsun as a make for some of their sort of collected, sort of popular priced cars. That could be a way that they do that, but I think the last thing they want to do is confuse people with another brand.
Right, exactly.
But if they wanted, and I know that there's not really a Renault Nissan tie-up anymore, but if they threw, and in fact, these are sold as the Nissan Toronto in some markets, or were at one time. If they decided to make that the Rogue Sport, that would be, a huge upgrade.
Yeah. Who's that? Glenn, are you next?
Yes, I am next. The Seat / Cupra Leon. It sold under both names. I believe essentially the same car. technically a Volkswagen, or at least owned by Volkswagen Group. So there's definitely some VW DNA. I didn't even know this car existed until last year when I was watching The Amazing Race, and they were doing an episode in Germany, sidebar, very close to where my family hails from, in the Rhineland of Germany. And they were all driving either the Seat or the Cupra version. And I couldn't understand why the same car had different logos on the steering wheels. And then I did a little diving in and found that there was this thing called Cupra that I'd never even heard of. I was just saying how much I like the Scirocco, this car just as much. I think it's less sporting intentions behind it and more of your standard hatchback, but man, what a cool car. And just not the kind of cars that people are really interested here in the US anymore. And not a lot of people, not the bulk of people are interested in, which is sad because I miss this segment of cars so much. So
the Leon and the Cupra all have the Volkswagen MQB component set underneath them, so they share components with the Audi TT, the Volkswagen Golf, and the Jetta, and that kind of thing. And Cupra was the sort of GTI model of the Leon. And Volkswagen Group has been spinning Cupra off as a new kind of sporty oriented sub brand, I suppose, the scion of Spain. And with some success, people respond to it, and that company in particular has such an interesting history, because it started out being a company that built Fiats under license and then was purchased by the Volkswagen Group in sort of the same time that they bought Skoda in the Czech Republic, and sort of became part of the Volkswagen diaspora.
That's very
cool.
Cool.
Like when the walls came down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They have a very cool logo. It doesn't mean anything, but it's really cool. And from what I can tell, just visually, it looks like the Seat version of this car and the Cupra version are pretty much the same exact thing, with just different badging. But either of them, if someone wants to somehow sneak one into the US, contact me. Leave the contact information in the comments below, and I will be in touch.
In a totally legal way that you could want to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Buy
or
one,
you might have to
for
wait
25 years and then bring it in.
Just gonna say that. All right. So I'm doing a throwback here. It would be the second generation Ford Focus ST from Europe, and not the second generation that we got in the United States. And there's a famous episode of Top Gear that talks about it. I just love the looks of it. I love the attitude of it. There's so much that I was always a big fan of the Focus STs. The later version that we got here, that had some great power and great handling and all that stuff. But that particular version of Focus ST is just always something I really liked. So
yeah, those are super handsome. And you're right, we didn't get that version. And that's the sort of later aughts version of the Focus, I think, because in that period, the US, North America, got a sort of heavily revised version of the New Edge Focus. But we didn't get the one that Europe got.
No.
Yeah, that's a great car.
I had the first generation Focus ST.
I remember that.
Which I really, really liked. I'd get that car back in a second. But yeah, so all right, Jeff, your next one up.
A future episode should be cars we would have back and cars we would kick. We're glad are gone. I feel like I've expressed some of the greatest range here. My third draft pick here, in the 3 position, is the Lexus LM. Give me a giant luxury van. In Japan and in Asia, this is now where the luxury action is. I mean, yes, the Toyota Century is wonderful, obviously. It's every superlative you could possibly assign to the Toyota Century is deserved. They're terrific. But most, parliament members and guys in the Yakuza aren't driving Centuries anymore. They're all driving these incredibly tricked out luxury vans. The Kia Carnival in Asia is practically a limousine, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Like, who wants, if you've made it, I mean, why do you want to bang your head on the roof of your Century as you're folding yourself into the back seat? Why not? Or trying to fit your legs through the little cutout thing in the seat that they put in the Centuries. Why not just stretch out in air-conditioned comfort in a giant mini to midi-sized van? They will never bring this to the US because minivans in the United States are mom-mobiles and will forever be mom-mobiles, even though they are in many ways the perfect form factor for a lot of people who drive SUVs, in that they have fewer compromises and are considerably more comfortable. But no, give me a Lexus LM, man. That's the one I want.
Does it come with the lace?
Yes, it probably does. I think you can probably get it that way. Yeah, that's one of the peculiar things about Japanese luxury cars is the sort of lace doilies on top of the seat backs and the headrests. And also, and this is something I learned when I was reading about the Toyota Century, is that the top spec interior is not leather, it's wool.
Oh, okay.
It's cooler in the summer, it's warmer in the winter, it's environmentally friendly, it's sustainable, because all sheep do is grow hair.
Grow hair,
and I mean, I think you can get it tricked out just like any, Crown Magista or whatever. No, this is a segment of the car industry that has not really been in the US. The closest you might get is like the sort of higher end Chrysler Pacificas.
Yeah.
And the Odyssey and Sienna and the Carnival. The Carnival also has a pretty decent interior spec as well, but nothing like this Lexus. This Lexus is another step beyond.
That means it's my turn.
It's Glenn's turn.
Glenn's turn. Sorry, Glenn.
Can I interject with a quick story that dovetails off of something Jeff just said?
Sure.
And that is that, the minivan is really just a, resoundingly useful car. When I was living in California, I was in the process of purchasing my 1993 Mazda Protege. And I was at the dealer, and the salesperson had stepped away, and in the showroom at that point in time was a father who was buying his son a car to go to college with, and the son wanted the RX-8.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, which was a terrific car, but not, they even back then they were known for being so insanely light that to the point of being flimsy, And so there's the dad like looking at this car with the son, and the dad's like, I don't know, kid, it's just not, I don't know, he's just moaning and groaning, and the kid's like, come on, Dad, come on. Out of nowhere, the dad turns to me and he says, so you look like you're not far out of college. And I said, that's correct, I'm not. And he said, would this be a good car for a college kid? And I look over and there's the son going. And I said, no, really, you should get him a minivan.
Yeah.
to which the kid goes, dude, that's so messed up. Because it was California. And I explained to him, look, you're going to need something to haul all of your crap back and forth to school. And then when you get there, you want to take your friends out for fun, You're not going to be able to do anything in this little itty bitty. You're going to hate it, At least get something that you can carry some stuff in. But anyways, I digress.
Also, 93 Protege, one of the most handsome cars How did that
Thank
feel?
you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
That car, I swear by that car. And if at the time the red, it was in red, and it's almost as attractive as that Mazda red that they sell now.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
really close to
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just the lines of that car, God, every time
Yes.
Like a almost like a W201 Mercedes, like the
Yes.
190 class. It's a shame they
Absolutely.
all dissolved up here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. I told someone about my car once on the phone, and I said, it's a Mazda, and this guy was Fairfield County jerk, and immediately trashed me for not having a luxury brand. I said it looks a lot like the Mercedes 190, and he just cacked on me. And then finally, when he saw the car first face to face, he was like, "It looks like the Mercedes 190," and I'm like, "Yeah, I think it's even." That I just thought the styling cues on that car were ideal, and what a great car!
Yeah,
One of the
sure.
few cars that I've owned that I drove over 100,000 miles. So,
Wow.
yep.
Glenn, in your
Anyways,
3 spot.
yeah. So I'm going to do one car that's actually just out of production. They just stopped making, and a car that is not being made yet, and then I will be done. The car that fascinates me that they stopped making in 2022 is the Honda S660. It's this big. It's a 2-seater,
Is it
and
a
it's just
K car? What do they
what's
call it?
that?
What is it? The K car? Is that what they call it?
KEI, yeah, K
Yeah,
car. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just I just I'm gonna pull up the pictures here. Hold on a minute. Yeah, there's just something insanely cool about how small it just it reminds me like sort of like a modern day MG,
Mhm.
except made not to fall apart. Sorry, with no, not that I mean to slam MG, but they weren't put
Well,
together
yeah.
well. So, not that they're around anymore to slam, but it's just there's something about this car that I'm fascinated by. I probably wouldn't even fit in this car, but I don't care because it's just kind of cool.
It's giving Suzuki Cappuccino,
Yeah,
Daihatsu Copen
yeah,
energy,
right.
both of which are great references.
Sure, absolutely. And not the kind of car that would ever sell here anymore. But well, I don't know. I mean, did
I think
Mazda really think
go ahead.
the
Not now.
Miata was going to be that big a hit? And
The
still,
Miata is a good size bigger than that, though.
yeah,
There's a 0% chance that Honda would be able to sell that car here.
yeah, true. And then just very briefly, coming down the road, Volkswagen is going to be introducing the ID2 and an electric car. And man, I want this car. Man, do I want this car in the worst way. So the only thing on the horizon here that even seems to be coming close is Volvo's EX30, which I mention probably every podcast because I'm just so excited about it. So.
It's a drinking game. Every time Glenn mentions EX30, drink.
Yeah, really. I can just see pictures of people somewhere in like Kentucky or something. But yeah, so and that wraps up my list. So
Okay. I have one more, and then I'm staying with the wagon theme. Mazda sells a Mazda 6 wagon in Japan.
do
That,
they?
yeah,
Looking it up.
like, and the Mazda 6 has always seemed to have a nice wagon variant. Um, but this is a sharp car, and of course they have it on their website in that beautiful red. So, and I can read even less Japanese than I can German. I don't know anything about it. It's got a 300 on it. That may be the price. Or I don't know. And I don't know what I'm clicking to say yes for when it comes to cookies and stuff like that. I'm just clicking away. Anyway,
Accepting all of them.
yeah.
And it's a shame they just, I think, have discontinued the 6 in the US, which is
Really
understandable because the game in sedans is now Honda, Toyota, and Hyundai Kia, like that. They pretty much splitting the market at this point. So I get why, and Mazda had become kind of an increasingly niche player outside of their SUVs, which are really good. But yeah, boy, that's such a handsome car. Just
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah. Well, good. This has been fun. Jeff, you're off to Europe soon, so you'll be, taking notes.
Yes. Yes, I will be, and as far as the old car, I will be looking through every wine storage shed and leaning garage for a mint late 70s Opel Monza, and I will find a way to bring it back.
There you
There
go.
you
There you go.
The Cutlass Supreme of West Germany. I always really like Cutlass Supremes too, so why not?
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So that wraps up another episode of Car-Pinionated. If you enjoy what you see, you can find more on our YouTube page, which we'll put down here. And thanks, guys. I appreciate it. The little world tour. And so we will see y'all next week.